With over 25 years in the creative, marketing, advertising, and PR industry, including a decade spent running and eventually selling his own successful agency, Steve Guberman now channels his expertise into coaching agency owners. As the founder of Agency Outsight, Steve helps owners unearth their challenges, define their goals, and conquer them all, enabling them to build and run the agency of their dreams. Steve, I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's an
I've
absolute.
never heard my intro sound so elegant than you deliver it in your voice.
Thank you for saying that. Whenever I'm talking to my uh, American clients, I always feel I sound a bit uptight. So, and Americans sound so glamorous. But
Yeah.
but thank you for saying that. So I want to begin by asking you, your company is called Agency Outsight. Can you
Hmm?
just explain the meaning behind the word?
So, Outsight gives me the ability to help owners or leaders in an agency see what's going on from the outside. And it came about through my friend Todd and I were kind of brainstorming ideas for what to call this thing. And if you picture a pickle jar, and the owner and or leaders are inside the pickle jar, they can't see the what the label says from the inside. And so you can only read it from the outside.
Love that. And I should
Yeah.
have thought of that. What Talk to me about the owners that work with you. You've been doing this a long time. We've just heard how many years. You now help agency owners that obviously was tr- is are treading the path that you once walked as an
Yeah.
agency owner. So when they come to you, what kinds of challenges are they facing that you ultimately help them fix?
There's a mirror there, and it's to me it shows that when I had my agency and my biggest challenges, I was 2 or 3 years in. I was working a zillion hours, chasing any client that would look at me when and if I could pay myself or remember to pay myself. I was basically making minimum wage. What was it all for? And I couldn't seem to get traction to get out of that rut. Those are most of the pain points that I see in agency owners when they're ready to engage. They've hit their head against the same spot on the wall for all too long. They can't find traction in what they want this business to become. So really trying to help them build what the business of their dreams could be.
And did you have some kind of mentoring, coaching, consultancy when you were treading that path? Talk to us. Step back a little bit in time, and how long were you running the agency for?
I ran it for a decade before I sold it, but in our second or third year, I engaged a coach and joined a mastermind group of not just agency owners, but just general business coaching mentorship group. And that was my kind of pivotal change of how much I don't know about running a business. I was, and I believe most people in our industry are accidental business owners. I was a graphic designer, a brand designer, a web designer, and thought, these idiots that run these businesses, I can do it so much better. Those idiots were doing the absolute best that they could because they were also accidental business owners. And so I needed some business training. I needed to understand the right way to position myself, the right way to scope a project, the right way to be an account manager, the right way to, upsell accounts. I couldn't just use my, design skills and good charm to build a business anymore. So that we kind of grew up big time in that second and third year. And a lot of thanks to my business coaches and the people that were in my peer mastermind group.
What did it give you, like to be humble enough to think I don't know everything and I need some help?
So, I mean, I guess the best leaders are the ones that know they don't know everything and they want to surround themselves. And I'm not calling myself the best leader, but it was like an awakening of there's so much I don't know and I don't even know what I don't know. And so I would hear other business owners talk about their challenges and be like, "Oh yeah, that's mine too. I have that. How'd you get through that?" And so, like the peer mastermind groups that I operate, they are just agency owners, And those aha moments come about when somebody says, here's what I'm facing and here's how I got through it. And like, I'm pretty sure it's called like Gestalt experience or something along those lines, where we're not sharing opinions. We're not sharing like hypotheses or theories, but it's lived experiences that worked and didn't work. What if you try this? Because this is what I did and it didn't work, and it might work for you under different circumstances or things like that. But I like humility. You said it yourself. Like that's a big component to understanding that I need somebody to help me figure this out. Shoot, payroll's coming. I don't know if I'm going to make it. How can I shake the trees and get some low hanging fruit or build a more sustainable pipeline so I don't ever face this challenge again? Or hopefully don't face it again. Like things like that. So coaching gave me the ability to see things before I had the problems, but also perspective from the outside of here's why you're going through these problems and how you can avoid them in the future.
You referenced your group of agency owners, this group that you are helping. What are the themes coming out of that group right now? Like, what's on everybody's mind? Are there any kind of big challenges that everyone keeps talking about?
The biggest is AI. Everybody's talking about AI. How do I use it? Should I use it? I don't want to use it. My clients want me to use it. Do I tell my clients I'm using it? Like all of these questions. So that's the biggest. Probably the other one is pipeline and close on, if not tied for that is niching. I'm big into niching. I don't think it's a black and white thing, and I think that people think it's black and white, and therefore I'm not going to do it because I don't want to just work for fintech or consumer tech or CPG, and I'll get bored or whatever. And so I'm really trying to like demystify some of those things there. The other one, and you and I have spoken about it, and it's an ongoing buzz, is AM/PM hybrid. It's been constant in recent conversations and webinars and things like that as well. So those are the hot topics that I'm seeing.
Interesting. Well, let's pick them off one by one. You
Okay.
said,
I don't know that we'll solve for them today, but they're great things to talk about
well,
and give some insight over.
I'm just interested in your sort of point of view, maybe some thought starters for people listening, because I'm sure those listening are probably struggling with one, if not all of those things. So let's start with niching. You've mentioned about, it's not a black and white thing, but what are your general approaches when you're trying to begin talking to someone that perhaps isn't niched at all? Like how do you start that conversation and what do you get them to think about?
I think the biggest thing to really think about is that clients are more picky now than ever because they know that there are alternatives to hiring an agency. And so if an agency can't, from the initial conversation, demonstrate their expertise in that industry with curiosity and empathy, then they don't stand a chance. So in a world where pipelines are shaky at best, the economy is not the best, at least not here in the States, for random obvious reasons we might not discuss. But it's a no-brainer to own a few verticals and say this is where we are an expert and this is where we thrive the most, and our track record demonstrates that we are experts in these two or three industries or four industries, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean that they need to turn away other business that knocks on their door, but it's a path forward to a stronger, more vibrant, healthier pipeline of the right kinds of clients that they are attracting and not chasing. So long-winded answer, but yeah, there's a lot to it, and again, it's not black and white. It's not I'm going to go fire everybody and just work in home services. It's we're going to go to the home services events. We're going to start putting out content about it. We're going to start speaking about marketing in the home services space, and over time, that's where we're going to focus our energies because now we're an expert and now we can deliver work far more efficiently and profitably. It's the bottom line, obviously. So, yeah.
It feels like that affects the other two, doesn't it? The
Mhm.
pipeline, the AI, and even the AM/PM, because you can kind of for the AM and PM, they can be talking the client's language a lot more conducively.
They have to be, yeah.
Of course, and you're right. I mean, what makes you more valuable to a client? It's that understanding and that expertise in what the client does. So I love that you started with the client's hat on. What about AI? Um, where are agencies at generally? Do you think, realistically?
I think they're curious. They're curiously integrating it, right? I think very few are like leaning in full force, and the ones that are way ahead of the curve. They're, you know, what do you call it? They're doing implementations for their clients. They're building products and services for their clients. They're way ahead, and I think that's maybe, I don't know, 10% of agencies. There's the core of agencies are trying to figure out how do we use it for our delivery, how do we use it to optimize our process internally. But I don't think they are, from what I'm seeing, they're not bringing it to their clients and saying, "Hey, we can build you this thing based on AI." So they're using it more for internal optimizations, which I love. Bring in automation, use it to help with content and process and things like that. And then there's this small percentage that are still stuck in fear, and they are going to get run over by this bus that is just you can't stop it. And if they are not adopting it and leaning into it, I just feel like it's going to be something that decimates that end of the spectrum.
It mirrors what I'm seeing here as well.
Mm.
And I suppose where I'm thinking is no one really knows where it's going to go, but we know it's coming. I've been
Mhm.
calling it a freight train. You've just called it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you called it, but it's coming
Freight
whether we
chance
like.
sounds better than what I said, probably. Yeah.
It's coming whether we like it or not. So you've seen agencies kind of adopting it for their workflows, for speeding up, for efficiencies, and things like that. But obviously the potential. Do your agency owners, are they initiating conversations with their clients about AI use and AI use policies?
Mostly not. Mostly are dodging it. They still don't know how to embrace it. I don't think most of us know how to bring it forward in a proactive way to the clients around policies and usage cases and things like that. I think there are very few that are, and most of the agencies I work with are under 50 people. They're literally solopreneurs up to 40, 50 people. And so at the higher end of that scale, yeah, I think they're starting to have those conversations. The large holding companies, I don't really have a huge bead on what they're doing, but the few conversations I have had, they're also trying to avoid those conversations.
Mm.
So, I don't know universally, but I I believe agencies need to be proactive in these kinds of conversations for the sake of relationship building. And so being forthcoming with their clients is vital.
I absolutely agree. I concur. And also, the law is trying to catch up with the
Yeah.
speed of the freight train, isn't it? So, the issues of copyright, trademark, and data use in these tools is also very much in flux. Is that what you're seeing in the US as well?
Yeah, I haven't heard a ton around the regulation development yet, but certainly copyright is a big question. Can we use certain things that were created by certain models, depending on where they're getting their information from? I did just see something posted that a judge or a district court said that it was okay for the models to use published books to learn from and to use that for their models. So yeah, I think the issue is with the artists and the authors that have created this content, like they're not getting any credit for what these models are learning from. So, yeah.
In the UK at the moment, we've got a court case going on between Getty Images and Stable Diffusion because it became apparent that Stable Diffusion was just taking these images, and it's all gone to court. And by the time of recording, it should be concluding. So it's going to be quite interesting because I think that's going to probably set the tone.
Yeah, that'll
So
be a
we
huge game changer and a precedent definer.
Absolutely. So we've talked about niching and how important that is right now to just raise your value as we go into this AI driven world. We've talked about AI and the potential for creating products ultimately for our clients to add more value than we've ever done. Talk to me about pipeline, because both of those factor. What are you hearing from agency owners about their, maybe stalled pipelines or empty pipelines? Hopefully not.
Stalled pipelines are likely due to what the economy is doing and the uncertainty. I think there are ways to kind of shake that loose, but it is a touchy area. We're midway through 2025 and the year started out really shaky. It seems to have gotten a little better. It seems like clients are starting to make decisions, but they're being very particular. And it's another one of those eras of do more with less budget. And so we're trying to squeeze a lot more juice out of the fruit. And agencies need to be creative and nimble and figure out ways to deliver without, eating into their profitability. So there's the AI and automation and offshoring and, VAs and various ways they can do that. But I think the pipeline has been elongated from what I've seen, and so more at bats, getting more opportunities into the hopper is going to obviously be the best opportunity there. The downside is, shoot, hopefully they don't all land at once because
Yeah,
then we have a resourcing problem.
indeed. What do you advise generally about filling that pipeline? What kind of tactics, strategies, approaches do you feel that work particularly well, maybe in this climate, and or for the individual agency owner themselves? What suits them?
It all comes down to relationships. I am a big fan of fill your calendar with coffees and brunches and lunches and dinners and events and build as much FaceTime as possible. Doing it strategically, not randomly, with the right decision makers and being direct about those conversations. Not all the conversations should be tied around, do you have any business for me? Can we bid on this project, etc. But building those relationships so that you are thought of as, oh, yeah, Susan is an expert. They've got a great team, and we're going to bring them in for this project. FaceTime is the force multiplier there. And thankfully, we are far enough away from COVID that is a strategy that people need to be leaning into.
That's a really good piece of advice. How would you suggest that people initiate those conversations? Because, there's probably a few people that may be reluctant. Maybe it's a past lapsed client and they're a little bit worried about reaching out again, or for whatever reason. Is there any
Yeah.
particular strategy or any kind of tips that you give people for re engaging?
So this is old school. Don't throw a phone at me, but pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yeah.
When's the last time somebody picked up the phone and said, "Hey, just checking in. How are you and the family? I know we talked previously about a potential project. Do you have time for lunch tomorrow or this week or this month or whatever?" The phone is such an untapped resource. It's all email and LinkedIn messages and automation, and there's nothing personal there. And even if the email lands or the LinkedIn message automated message lands, great. The goal is to get a meeting. So try something different. Pick up the phone, call the client that you haven't worked for in 6 months or a year, and re-engage. I'm a big fan of that. I love doing that. It is hard because agencies aren't just working in their backyard. So are you gonna, what's the radius? How far are you willing to travel to have a meal with a potential client and build a relationship?
But it pays dividends, doesn't it, Steve? And I know it's
I
old
think so.
fashioned advice, but you and I are from that era where everything was done on the phone. And there's a very big difference between, and some of my account managers I work with say, they refer to a conversation they had with a client. But actually, when you start unpicking it, it wasn't a conversation, it was an email. And
Yep.
it's just not the same. So let's talk about those agencies that are thriving right now. Some of your clients, maybe, that are being successful. Is it because they're ticking all those boxes that we've just discussed, or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the agencies that I know that I'm working with and I'm friends with that are thriving, and many of them are, again, it's been a rough year, and a lot of shops, I don't want to say a lot of, many shops have had to close their doors. Now, it's unfortunate. But there's a seasonality to what we do. Nobody's going to last forever. The ones that are thriving, they are niched in some way, shape, or form, whether it's service delivery, verticals that they work with and speak to and expertise that they have, leaning into and owning AI and bringing that to their clients, strong account management, strong business development, relationship building. They're the ones that are thriving. There certainly are verticals that are not doing great and have not done well for the first half of the year. And so, even a diversified niche strategy is an option and is very valuable. We saw that in COVID, that agencies that were deeply niched in like travel, tourism, in-person events, things like that, they didn't survive because those industries tanked literally overnight. So having three or four is really valuable. That way you can say, diversified. But yeah, all those are the boxes to check. Those are the agencies that are thriving right now. They are growing. They're looking for talent. There's a lot of talent on the street right now, and it's hard to come. It's hard to come by because the cycle there is that people that are on the street are trying to do their own thing. They're being fractional marketers or art directors or CFOs or whatever, account people. So
Talk to me about account people, and I'm delighted that you referred to strong account management for those
yeah.
agencies that are doing well. So, what are your, I don't know, your approach to advice for agency owners about the role of account management?
Again, it's a hot topic now. I was literally just watching a presentation on it earlier this morning about the conversation or argument to be had for hybrid role AM PM. I think it depends on the size of the business. When I had my agency, I had a designer who had a knack for project management. They were not the best designer, and we bumped heads on creative direction a lot. And finally, I said, let's move you into a PM role. And they owned the heck out of it, and they were awesome at it. But they weren't great on the account side because they just weren't a great client-facing person. So I think account management is one of the ways to win in the game of lifetime value of a client. It is probably the key to owning the lifetime value of a client. It is probably the key to growing those accounts. So land and expand kind of concepts of better to win it once and keep growing it and put less effort into net new business development. There are a lot of people that say I'll throw an intern at it or a junior person, and I don't think that's the best move. I think it's a trainable role, but I think when you and I have discussed it, the innate characteristics of a person that is a winner at account management, they have compassion, they have curiosity, they have empathy, they're outgoing. So I think those are essential elements to find in that person, but then training them on sales as you do, and helping them see opportunities and turn that into here's a solution that we can provide for. I can't tell you how many conversations I've been in where people are like, no, we can't do that. Just shut the door at an idea. And I'm like, what? No, and there's no no's in here. We'll figure it out. We'll discuss it and get back to you. And then if it can't be done, we'll find a better opportunity for you or pass it off. But yeah, so I think account management is essential in the health of a business, in the growth of a business. I'm not a huge fan of the quote unquote unicorn, but I do think there is an opportunity for it in certain small shops with that hybrid person. And I think that person needs to be PM first, turned AM, because I think that the PM role is so specifically analytical and kind of type A personality that you can't train. You can train for the tools that they'll use, but you can't train for that part of a personality. So I don't know your thoughts on that, but that's been my experience so far.
It's interesting. I think it's an individual case by case, isn't it? That unicorn that you're referring to is someone that assumes the role of the hybrid AM PM and thrives, and they
Yeah.
are out there. But if you are looking at growth of your existing clients, growing your accounts profitably, then put some effort there. So, in the case of an agency with a hybrid role, where there are lots of upsell, cross sell opportunities to add more value to existing clients, and they have hybrid PMs, AMs, what's your advice for agency owners to step in a little bit and support them with the growth of those existing clients?
I'd rather see them invest more into the AM side of it and outsource a virtual PM because that that client-facing aspect is that much more vital. The key role of a project manager is to jockey the things internally, get shit done. Pardon my French. Get stuff done on time, on budget, and that's primarily an internal role. So you can bring in, an outsourced VA for not a ton of money to do the PM, but trusting somebody to be client facing, to nurture that relationship, the CEO needs to have a hand in that. And in most cases, as agencies grow and the CEO gets less and less hands on, that's one of the last roles that they are going to relinquish, because most of those clients are their relationships from past careers or their network or whatever. So they're going to hold on to that, a little more tightly than any other aspect of the business. But yeah, I think that's a tightly held role. I think proper training and sales training are vital in the success of those roles.
100% agree with you. Let's talk about the agency owner's leadership skills and leadership ability, because obviously you've trodden the path yourself. You see probably a lot of mistakes or people heading down a pathway that you just know isn't right. How important are the leadership skills, and what would you say is maybe the three key skills that someone needs to survive and thrive as an agency owner?
I think it's vital. Even the agency that intentionally wants to stay small, of like just the owner and some freelancers, or just like the owner and a partner. I was talking earlier today with two sisters that own an agency and they don't want to grow, but they're strong leaders. And it's vital. And so what are the key elements? That's a tough one. Humility, we talked about that. They've got to know that they're not the smartest person in the room and understand that there's a lot that they don't know, and then surround themselves with the smart people that, all right, I'm going to hand this off to you and hand this off to you. I think trust, because when you do delegate, you've got to allow the person that you're delegating to execute and give them the autonomy to do their job. Um, Man, what's a third one? Curiosity is a good one. Empathy, or empathy and curiosity, I'd probably throw in together. I think that those really are vital. Um, and especially, if they are building a team, those are really vital. The empathy with your team members, to know, like, so I'll tie that to like the unicorn role. I think it's unfair of a leader to expect a team member to take on that much, and you need empathy to realize that. Am I asking too much of my team members? Am I putting too many accounts on them? Am I expecting them to be a superstar in these different roles that are really not the same role? So yeah, I think those are vital elements of good leadership.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that empathy piece is really key. I mean, when I've reflected on all the leaders I've worked for, there's been that kind of element of vulnerability somehow, and openness and empathy. So
Yeah.
you feel more motivated to work for them, to do well for them, for the success of the firm. So I think empathy and curiosity are brilliant. Well said.
I will say, if I can, just to expand on that. So, I've seen it in clients, and experienced it myself, that all too many owners think they need to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and that will only be to their detriment. And that's not to say that they should bring their team members in. Oh man, I don't know if we're going to make payroll this month. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, be transparent and open with some of the challenges that the agency is facing, that the leadership team is facing. Have somebody that you can talk to, whether it's a coach, a spouse, a partner, a business partner, or life partner, whatever, that, like, because, and I've done it again, I did it myself. You'll come down on the team for things that they haven't done, that aren't their fault, that they don't even need to be come down on for. And that's not fair. That's not good leadership, So I think that openness and transparency within the community, the team, and I'm not saying treat your team like a family, because I think that's BS also, but think there needs to be this level of, get rid of that, I'm the boss, so I've got to be the toughest thing in the office kind of person. That's toxic. It's not healthy. It's not going to work for a very long time.
How transparent do you think the agency owner needs to be about not necessarily the health of the business, but the numbers and targets and overall financial picture? What do you generally advise people to do?
think they need to be very transparent, but using percentages and not numbers. So most team members, employees, they look at, oh, we just sold this $30,000 website. Where's all that money going? They don't know. They don't know what overhead costs. They don't know what taxes are. So in most cases, they don't. So if you present goals and KPIs and metrics in the form of percentages, our goal for this year is 110%, and we are halfway there. And so it's easy to show growth and success or not success, but not give away like where's all this money going and why is there $30,000 in the bank and things like that. So I wouldn't say, here's the cushion we're sitting on, but I believe in transparency. I think team members thrive when they are brought into the conversation of the health of the business.
I agree with you. What about accountability? When an agency owner is struggling, maybe it's because they do see their agency like a family, and therefore they find it hard to separate themselves from this kind of cozy, warm pair of slippers that they've become, and don't feel that they want to create any friction with the family.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment of that, but it is a business, and so let's say business isn't great, and you've got 5 employees or 10 employees. I really want to take care of this family. I'd rather see you lay off your sister or whatever this person you're calling them and save the rest of the team than think I'm going to save the whole family. So I think it comes at a detriment. I love my family. They are the greatest thing in the world. I wouldn't hire most of them, and I've actually fired my brother a few times because he's the worst client in the world. So you get to be a little more picky and choosy in the people that you bring onto your team. And sure, you work together for a while, you build rapport, you get to know them and their families and what makes them tick and their vulnerabilities. At the end of the day, they are still a part of a team that you're building and that you've selected to be a part of what you're building. And that doesn't mean that they're just a number. They don't have feelings. Again, empathy is playing a role here, and I want people to take care of the team members, but I want them to think of it as the whole is far more important than an individual on the team.
Do you find, Steve, that you play the role of therapist? When someone's facing a decision they have to make. The reason I say we've only met a couple of times, but you are so empathetic and so like you exude empathy. And obviously, I've shared with you a circumstance that I'm going through, and you've been so amazingly helpful and empathetic. And I would imagine that you're very that kind of person to work with, that you will end up being someone really easy to talk to.
Yeah, a lot of the work that we do gets very emotional. I have had clients, our typical calls are twice a month for an hour per call. I have had clients take 45 minutes of that one of those hours and bawl their eyes out about what's going on, the weight of the world, the business, the employees, the cash flow, the pipeline, the payroll. And then, all right, we got through that. Cool. Now what are we going to do about it? And we'll spend the next 15 minutes building a plan, and then we'll jump on another call and all right, how are we doing? So, yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability. This is not just crunching numbers. That like there's feelings and people and humans and lives and families involved in these businesses. And so I want only the greatest success for all of them, and I want that success to be tied to the owner and their family and the team that they're building. I mean, their actual family and the team that they're building. So it does get, pretty emotional. Yeah.
I think it's a skill in itself that you've got to create a safe space that people feel able to be honest with you. Because let's face it, you look at LinkedIn and a lot of people are painting a picture of the world that maybe isn't what it's like behind the scenes. So I think obviously you do very good work. What are your general kind of thoughts on where we're going as an industry? Obviously we've talked about AI, we've talked about the challenge, the freight train, but what is your vision about where we're going and what it's going to look like?
First, that's the greatest compliment that anybody can ever deliver to me. So thank you. That means the world to me. Um, I honestly don't know. I wish I did have a crystal ball where the industry is going. I'd like to believe that what we're experiencing is going to weed out some of the competition. I think that happens every few years. I think it's okay. I think it's healthy. We had an influx of agency launches during COVID when so many people got laid off, and their next thought was, I'll become a fractional or I'll launch an agency. And so I think so many of those are going to go away, and that's okay. It happens in every industry. The ones that are smart and strong and are leaning into the things they need to lean will thrive. We're seeing a big shift in the holding companies and how they're treating agency of record engagements and shifting into project work, which is really going to impact small agencies who have always been leaning into project work. So I think that is a tell for what's to come in the next few years. But man, the way tech and AI is advancing so quickly, I don't know what the future holds, for the marketing space. Sam Altman said he thought something like 80% of marketing jobs were going to be done by AI bots in the next few years. I don't know that I believe that number, but I also don't have anything to doubt it with either, which is kind of scary.
A
I,
lot.
I do want to believe that good businesses and smart leaders will continue to thrive and they'll continue to do really good work. So I want to believe that. This industry has been around for a very long time and can't imagine a world without it. So there will always be a marketing, advertising, creative, PR, design, web industry. But this is a shakeup, and we've seen shakeups. So yeah,
It's certainly a big shake up for sure. And you're right. I mean, again, going back to the individual leader and how they lead and how innovative they are and how they approach that mindset of, okay, I might need to pivot, but I'm still going to be looking to see where the opportunity is and how I can help my clients. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a question that you asked me, and I never ask it on my podcast, but I loved it. And I thought, oh, that's a really good question. I'm going to start asking people. I've We've talked quite a lot, and I'm conscious of your time, but there's a question that I want to ask you. So, tell us something that not many people know about you.
wow. All right, man. There's a range of answers there, and I'm a pretty vulnerable guy, pretty open guy, and so I don't know how personal to make it. But for the sake of what my purpose is that I believe, so when I introduce myself, I don't say, "Hey, I'm Steve. I'm an agency coach." I say, "I found that my purpose in life is to be of service." And if that means helping somebody run a bit better business or find their true self or be of service to themselves or somebody else, that's my goal. And then I'll say, I'm Steve and here's blah, blah, blah. And I learned that from Simon Sinek, and I just love that guy. But one of my most vulnerable, true aspects of myself and why I want to be of service, I've been in long-term recovery from addiction for going on 30 years. I struggled with the demise and self-centeredness and destruction and pain and loneliness of addiction, and I've been able to find recovery for almost 30 years now, and it's a big part of my life, and it's an aspect of service that I get to live and help other people find their lives again. And it also helped point to when I wanted to pivot my career outside of the agency that bought mine. I knew I wanted to live a life of service and build a lifestyle business. And so the work I do at Outsight is very much inspired by the work I get to do in my recovery life. So not many people know that about me, but I have shared it on LinkedIn a few times. So there's that.
I'm so glad I asked you that. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because there are not many people that I feel that have that skill of instant connection, instant empathy, really good listeners, and just this kind of connection. And that's probably why
Yeah.
that you're telling that story, because that makes a lot of sense, Steve. And I'm sure any agency owner listening to this would benefit from working with you. And to that point, I'd love to wrap up the show by just saying, if there's someone listening to this that thinks, I feel that I've resonated with Steve and I would like to explore a way of talking to him, who would you like to hear from? And what's the best way to speak to you?
Reach out on agencyoutsight.com or find me on LinkedIn. I found the handle Agency Coach was available, so I grabbed it. And I talk with any agency owner or leader at an agency, whether they are interested in coaching or I don't have a hard sale. I don't use my Sandler skills for my biz dev at all. I want to be of service. I want to be of value. Whether that's, I have a podcast for agency owners. And so however I can be of value, resource, I'm here for them.
Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for everything that you've done for me, even though we don't know each other that well. But I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I look forward to talking to you on, on a next opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.